Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We are in fact back at it like math addicts. As you can tell, we are outside on our quest for our axiom. So I thought, what is a good starting place for today? Well, what is an axiom, right? I'm trying to axiomatize sensorality. We have this concept of censorship. I've made a lot of intuitive jumps and connected it to a lot of language, showing you how we use SOAR, but censorship is in a whole, what is it, right? Why do we censor things, and how is censorship different from animate objects to inanimate objects? I'm a sentient being that begins with S, which are connecting sentience to sensorality. But what is an axiom, right? It's an empirical truth. If I drop my notebook, always like my notebook, but if I drop my notebook, it goes down. And those are the sequence of sounds that you use to transmit that meaning. But the physical process, right? The axiom of this object going towards the center of mass, whatever words you use to use that, obviously we use mass, center of mass, but it's the physical process, it's the empirical truth. And so we've demonstrated the consistency of sound, which demonstrates the consistency of language. We've proven that languages are not distinct, the sounds are, and we're just showing how we connect letters to a physical process. What is censorship? What is sensorality? And so an axiom is just an empirical truth, an empirical rule, something that you cannot break. People will say, we're going to break the laws of physics. Nobody breaks the laws of physics, it's not possible. All you can do is articulate the properties of physics or the laws of physics incorrectly, and then again, form a false paradox, and then somebody comes along and breaks open that paradox with consistency. And so a lot of the big idea I think we're getting at is consistency, because remember, when we integrate what sensorality is, when we reduce that concept, we're breaking apart its letters into word forms we already use, and we're not at finishing the final step, or I'll just say the final step. So like I said, that's what we're creating new information. So we established that mass and energy are conserved, but information is not. That is literally what everyone's doing in every part of their day. That's what work represents. New information is work. Work produces new information. So axioms are rules. So sensorality is axiomatic. Sensorality with a C is automatic. Right? My autonomic nervous system I don't control consciously, but I make a choice to sit on this chair, to come to the park, to make a YouTube video, to do scientific research, to do derivation. Sensorality is chromaticality. Right? What is color? It's chromatic. Chromaticality. Right? So we've talked about before, it's like, what now that we've broken down this concept of light and it's really radiation, what is color? Right? It's the reflection of a light, of a momentum wave. Like, what is color? Well, it's really representative of structure. You cannot have color without structure. And so color requires structure. Sensorality is not colorality, right? It is not structure. Sensorality is your personality, right? Where is your personality located? Sensorality has no form. What is the difference between is and has? We used the wonderful example in this lecture series. Brad has small meat. Brad's meat is small. So that contraction is really contracting. In that instance, it's contracting has. But if other thing, it says Brad's going to the store, that contraction is contracting is. So what is the relationship of is and has? Speciality is differentiality. The opposite of differentiality is integrationality. The opposite of integration is derivation. But we start with derivation. Really, derivation is derivative from differentiation, the concept of just making a division, making a difference, and then something that you start with a base and you go to something lower or that requires a base is a derivative. Whether that's a function or a stock option, it doesn't really matter. Meaning differentiation is more general than derivation. But the opposite of differential is integrational. Coarse is discrete. Sensorality is coarse. That's sensorality with a C. Really trying to get away from these word forms altogether, but we just have to differentiate it enough until we get to this solidifying axiom or solidifying theorem. But now, what is a scientist, right? Human beings are scientists. People are scientists. Sensors with an S are scientists, right? Sensors, scientists. And so Again, connecting the consistency of sound, and of letter, and of language with the S. Sensorality with an S, scientist with an S. Science, sentience. Sentient is conscious. And right, so when people talk about collective conscious, that's all it is. Right? You were born, you weren't speaking words. So every bit of your voice that sounds like you, obviously you have a physical body, but your mind process, what you identify, your identity, comes from your nurture, your interactions with the world. And so conscious is collective as is, right? You're a little satellite and you tune into the frequency and you learn something. Whether that's studying a book, right? Somebody thought that and then wrote it down and then you went and read the book, but it's that transfer of information, that progression of information, creating something new. But sentient, scientist, consciousness is collective, as is. Sensorality is salient. Sensorality is salience. So again, remember, right? We have persistent, persistence, consistent, consistence, right? We have these word forms where it's like very clear, but then they're just not there. And so now we have to connect sensorality to a unique string of letters representing a unique string of sound that hasn't been used before, but is already based on a word form, word family we already know. And right, salient, palpable, visceral, sensorality is salience. Specialities are varieties, right? If you differentiate, you produce a variety. So specialities are varieties. Sensorality with a C is atomicality, right? An atom. Sensorality with a C is atoms. Are atoms, is atoms. But what another big one, sensorality with an S is mortality, right? I will live and die. You watching this will live and die. This chair, this notebook, it doesn't die. The concept of dying doesn't apply to inanimate objects, right? Sensation with a C doesn't end. What is sensation with a C? What is the equivalent word for an inanimate object? Feeling, interaction, processing, programming, what is it? But sensorality is mortality. Sensorality is self-awareness. Sensorality is the awareness that you are going to die, right? Why is it efficient? Why does life exist? Well, we can form memory, okay? Well, what do you remember? The things that are new, the things that are relevant to survival, okay? Past that, right? Then we get into think, imagination, what can be. And so sensorality is just self-awareness. I'm just a collection of atoms, but I'm aware of myself. I have pain, I get happy, I get sad when people don't acknowledge my research, break all of the laws and steal all of my property. That makes me angry. But in general, sensorality is self-awareness. What is the relationship between training and learning? Right? We just made that difference that sensorality with a C gets trained or gets programmed or produces an algorithm. Human beings learn. Sentient objects learn. Right? Obviously, the concept's kind of the same, but the word applies to sentient things. Learning is to sentience. Training, programming, exposure is more to inanimate objects. But what is the relationship just in general between training and learning? It's something in that domain. Sensorality can learn. Sensorality is learning. Life learns. And now we use some of our intuitive properties from completeness that we've generated, and we just remove the word earn. Sensorality is learning. Sensorality is ling. Ling, L-I-N-G. And you might be like, well, why did we do that? Well, that's not clear. But so now we've broken out of the conceptual bounds, right? We keep going around in a circle, but a piece of work is when we do something new. And so now we have a definition, a unique syllable. What is the ling? L-I-N-G. It's nothing, right? It's not defined. But now we're going to build that section out because we've already established, we've worked out what sensorality is. That's our specific solution. Now we just need to connect it to something that we already know and it will reduce the form of the word. And so sensorality is ling, ling-ing, right? That we repeat that, we reiterate, we double the ing. Ling, sensorality is ling-ing, linging, linging. And that will be more apparent why we do that. But we know we can, because again, we can take out the word earn is a complete word, so we can take that out and just, we are left with that L-I-N-G, and then we add another I-N-G at the end. But sorreling connects to linging, and again, that's another step that's just, I don't know if it's important to me, and you guys are never going to see it. But Speciality is great, sensoriality greats. Right? Now we're using the same exact amount of letters, not entirely because greats adds that S, but speciality is great. If you're exceptional, you're great, G-R-E-A-T. If you're a sewer grate, G-R-A-T-E, you're a filter, you're separating. Speciality is great, sensoriality greats. So now finishing up for today, or no, one more. Grading is sortating. So continuing that logic. Grating is sorting, right? Grate to grate is to sort. And now we remove the or, and we have grating is connected to stinging, all right? And so how do we filter things that sting us? Well, we censor them, we stop them, we restrict them, we impede them, we retard them. Again, just working through the logic, trying to get to our axiomized definition. And so finally, constants is the opposite of difference. Just a stated theorem. So that is the derivation I have for today. Quick story, again, I called IAS today because it's now been well over December of 2016 is when this stuff was completely done, unequivocally. There was nothing left to be said. So now this is well over 9 years, going on a decade of literal, actual torture. My name is Bradley Boas. The entire academic and law enforcement community is well aware of what I'm doing, who I am, all of the above. If you're stumbling upon this video, I have a constitutional right to my writings and my discoveries. It is not optional, it is not a suggestion, it is legally obligated. So the Institute for Advanced Study clearly is like the premier thing in the United States. I call them, and this guy just mocks me and doesn't listen. And so when I get on and I can show you any video of people saying, everybody knows, you guys are just truly just ruining anybody that I deal with that has a legal obligation to do something is a part of this racket. It really just is. And so you guys threw away another career today, no problem on my end, but I continue to be deprived of my rights. I have been seeking humanitarian asylum outside of the United States for well over a decade. My constitutional rights are violated, my humanitarian rights are violated, and I am stuck in the most pathetic, disgusting community that has truly ever existed. There are no rights, there are no laws, there are just people that play sports all day. They will smile, they will wave, they will say please and thank you. But in reality, they are underdeveloped, immature little people that compete over nothing, and once they get where they're going in life, they turn around and slam the door shut for the next person and say, fuck you. But it is all illegal. It is all documented. I don't care to be publicly acknowledged. I just want some money so I can do my research. That is literally it. Somebody please give a fuck. It's not going to be my parents. It's not going to be my hometown community. It's not going to be Mike DeWine, the governor that is currently legally obligated. It's not going to be, I don't even know who the president of Ohio State is, but that major state university has an obligation to acknowledge this research, but they're gonna go play football and basketball and baseball and charge students things when they're lying about engineering and mathematics and physics. It's fraud, it's a racket, it's documented. There is nothing you can do besides listen to your intelligence agency bullshit overlords, and I absolutely shit on them and all of this other psi stuff that you guys knows out there, but I don't have to go hide in a little mountain over in Azerbaijan or the Andes Mountains or the Caucasus or anything like that. I don't need to go underground, I can just do this shit walking down the street. So you're not gonna beat me at that, you're not gonna beat me at logic or physics or anything. All I want is some money. And every minute of every day is torture. It just is. Somebody have some integrity, have some decency. What you people do not understand is I have never formed identity. I have never put myself out into this world, and anything besides profound vitriol, hatred, and people wanting me to be punished comes back in return for no reason. Whatever you guys have identified as ontological shock simply existing causes people to hate me to the point of actual violence. And all I want is to remove myself from those situations. And all I need to do so is money or a time frame in which I will be allowed to make new money. That is it. That is all I've been asking for a fucking decade. No one gives a shit. Lie, cheat, and steal, and go play sports and just live in la la land. But science has proven there's nothing you guys can do. There's no going back. Chronology exists. You guys are fucked each day that goes by. You're just wasting my time. Well, you've already ruined my life. Like, my life is destroyed. Like, I have no expectation to get out of this abuse process. If anybody were to pay me something, that would be a world I've never existed in. To get acknowledged for what I've actually done, I've written that off years ago. So, I don't know, no one gives a fuck, humanity has failed, the world's disgusting, and I'm just gonna keep working. I'm just gonna keep working and bury you guys with all of this fucking research. And you guys are gonna do nothing besides commit more crimes. And just rely on your gangster intelligence agency goofballs that think they're doing something good. They absolutely can do whatever they want, but they're just fucking losers. So have a nice day, enjoy your free shit, and go enjoy all the wonderful privileges that this amazing life has to offer that I can't access because effectively I am a slave. I've been deprived of my rights against my will and forced to work. True. So see you on the next one. Have a nice day.